What is breath work, right? Breath work is this big buzzword right now, and people are talking about it, and it's trending, and it's in vogue, and all these different things. Like they're saying breath work is the new yoga right now. And so I'm going to try and explain what breath work is to me, or what the type of breath work that I teach anyways, and how it works and how it's changed my life. So hopefully this video is really helpful to you. So breath work, first of all, is an umbrella term, right? Like saying fitness. You know, when you say I do fitness, people wouldn't understand what you were talking about. Do you do CrossFit? Do you do yoga? Do you do Soul Cycle? So breath work is an umbrella term. There's all different types of breath work out there. You know, someone might do Kundalini yoga and they call that breath work. But that's not the type of breath work that I teach, and it's not what I'm going to explain about today. Wim Hof is really popular right now, and his style of breath work is one style of breath work, which is not the type of breath work that I teach. So I'll explain that. The first thing is, it's kind of misleading, right? So when people hear about breath work, they think they're coming to a class where they're going to be sitting in a lotus pose or a seated position, and it's going to be mellow and relaxing and quiet, and they're just going to be doing some relaxing breathing, and they have no idea what they're in for, because it's totally different than that. It's like the opposite of that. My class is, I crank the music, you're laying flat on your back, I'm yelling over the music, or I have a headset over the music, so I'm motivating, I'm saying all these intense things over the music. At the end of the class, we scream into a gong a lot of the time, and then I guide you through some moments. So it's not a relaxing thing. It's not this some mellow thing where you're going to try and meditate and sit there quietly and quiet your head, because I couldn't meditate to save my life. I tried every type of meditation out there, and nothing worked for me, and I just was frustrated and just felt like it was another thing that I wasn't good at. So, but when I laid down and did this breathing thing, this breathwork technique, it was like a workout, and I could do that because I was good at working out at the time. So all you do is lay flat, teach you the technique, and you breathe through your mouth in a certain way, and this intense, incredible thing happens where you release all your stress, all your anxiety, all your stuff, just years. The most common statement I hear is like, oh my God, that was like 20 years of therapy without having to say a word. Which is why I have, hundreds of people in my classes. So let me just kind of explain what breathwork is, and then I'll get deeper into it. So in life, ideally you should be breathing in and out through the nose, down into the belly, into the diaphragm, right? So take a breath in, you let it out, and then you talk or you rest or whatever, right? So that's how it should be. Most people aren't. Most people are breathing really shallow, holding their breath all the time, and they're just breathing in their upper chest, and they're not breathing down to their diaphragm. They're not breathing down in their belly, and that's why a lot of people are feeling stressed, anxious, depressed, is because they're not breathing deep, right? So just deep breathing in through your nose, down into your belly, can be life-changing for a lot of people. Then in my class, I use this particular technique. It's called conscious connected breathing or circular breathing. And this technique is actually through the mouth. Now in life, you should be breathing through the nose 95% of the time. But for this technique that I do, you breathe through the mouth into the belly, into the diaphragm, and you don't rest. So you take 2 breaths in, and you let 1 breath out, and it's circular breath, and you do this for anywhere between 20 and 30 minutes. So that it's kind of intense, and all this weird stuff starts to happen in your body, and it freaks people out, right? You're gonna get tingling in your arms and in your face. Your hands can get all tweaked out. That freaks people out. I have another video about that in my YouTube and why that happens, so I'm not gonna go into that here, but it tends to freak people out because you just think, I've been breathing my whole life. First of all, how can breathing help me? I've been doing it my whole life. So how is something I've already been doing, I'm doing right now, gonna clear out my stress and my anxiety and my depression? Your brain just doubts that automatically. because you've been doing it your whole life. Well, you've never done it this way. You've never had this experience. I had never had this experience. The first time I did it, which was about 8 years ago, the first thought that came out of my head, or the first thought when my brain finally turned back on, because it completely turns your brain off. It's incredible. It's this thing, it's called transient hyperfrontality. It turns off part of the frontal lobe, the critic that we all have, the critic that we all suffer from, right? That tells you you're not enough, you're not good enough. It turns that off, and it was the most incredible feeling I'd ever felt. Was my brain was totally turned off, and I felt grateful, and I felt all these amazing feelings. And so when my brain finally did turn back on, the first thought in my head was like, how has this been available to me my whole life? And nobody told me about it, nobody showed me. Like, how is this? I could have been doing this when I was 14 and I wouldn't have destroyed my life and everyone's life around me. Like, why isn't this, why don't more people know about this? And so now my kind of purpose, my mission has become to spread this to as many people as possible and to change as many lives as possible through this incredible power through this breathwork technique. So this breathing thing is just incredible. And there's a lot of different techniques out there. And the reason I teach this one particular technique, I've tried them all. I went down the rabbit hole and tried them all, and they're all great and they all work different things and do different things. But the reason I teach this one is because it's so powerful. It changes lives from the first session. From the first session, it's undeniable. Like, you don't have to believe that this thing is going to work. You don't have to believe me. You don't have to believe your friend who dragged you or whatever. You just need to do it, and you're going to experience it. As long as you can push through the discomfort, because in the beginning, it's uncomfortable, right? There's a lot of discomfort, and your brain doesn't want you to shut it off. Your brain's job is to protect you from all these different things, and so it tells you something is wrong. It says, oh my God, I don't like this. This is weird. You're having a stroke. Stop. I'm dizzy. I'm nauseous. Well, I got a headache. It will use all these different tricks to try and get you to stop breathing. And you have to be willing to push through it and ignore your head. And some people have let their head take over and run their whole life. It's running their entire life. We're not supposed to let our head run our entire life. You can move into your heart and operate from your heart as well, and your intuition, which is in your gut. But so many people are just letting their brain go overactive and run their whole life. And they have this hard time when they do the breathing thing that their brain doesn't want them to shut it down. So it just keeps talking all this mad trash, and you got to be like, shut up, breathe. Inhale, inhale, surrender the exhale, right? And so for the first couple of years, I had to literally just tell my head, shut up, breathe, shut up, breathe, and just push through the discomfort. Like, I had to override my brain. My brain, your brain is this 2 million year old thing that doesn't really, it's not really your friend. And that's hard information to take in. It doesn't really give a shit about how happy you are. Your brain's job is not to keep you happy. Your brain's job is to protect you. And it's always looking for what's wrong, and it's always looking for what's missing in your life. And we wonder why we feel like shit all the time. And if your brain is always looking for what's wrong and what's missing, then yeah, you're going to feel lousy a good amount of the time. So you have to rewire that if you want to feel good. You have to override that and get into a state of gratitude. That's what I found. And the way I do that is to do a breathwork session and turn off my brain and then get into gratitude, get grateful for the things that I have in my life, the things that are working in my life, the things that are good in my life. So Wim Hof breathing right now is really, really popular. And that's 3 sets of 30 with breath holds. And that's not what I teach. I've done it. I do it a lot. I actually really like that technique. It's not as intense as the technique I teach. I have people that come to my classes all the time who've been doing Wim Hof for a while, and they're like, oh my God, this is like Wim Hof on steroids. This is 10 times more intense. And it is. And I have people who have never done any kind of breathing before, and they show up and they do the breath work and they're just blown away. And they dive in and they start doing it, and the next thing they know, they want to teach it and show it to people. And so I have teacher trainings too that you can check out if you're interested in that, if you want to go down that road. But first thing that people need to figure out or learn is like, what is breath work? And so the breath work that I teach is this beautiful connected technique. It's called conscious connected breathing or circular breathing, right? And it's done through the mouth. and it's down into the belly, and we do it for about 20 to 30 minutes generally. It can be shorter, it can be longer, but ideally it's right in that range. And this technique, this simple technique, has changed every single area of my life. And people ask me sometimes, like, show me, like, how has it changed your life? Like, what has it done? Has it changed your life? Well, if you can turn off that critic in your head that tells you you're not enough, or how are you going to start an online business? You don't even know how to use Facebook properly, right? If you can turn that critic off, then you can just get to work and you can accomplish so much more with your life. Because so many people are letting that critic take over and stop them from doing what it is they want to do, whether that's starting a business or getting into a certain relationship or getting out of a certain relationship. I've seen that a ton. I have had so many people do breath work with me or do one of my courses online, and then they leave a relationship that they don't feel loved or respected or valued in. Because one of the things that happens from doing this breath work is it's really about self-care and self-love. If you start doing this breath work, you start loving yourself, you start caring for yourself in this new way. And if other people aren't treating you that way, then you're not going to put up with that. You're not going to put up with someone who doesn't treat you as good as you treat yourself. The reason you would put up with that is because you think you deserve it on some level, whether it's conscious or unconscious, usually unconscious. Or you think you can't do better. But I have seen so many people start to do breath work and get out of unhealthy relationships where they're not respected or loved or cherished or valued or whatever. And I've seen people go and create businesses and start to do all these different things and follow their dreams and start to tap into their creativity. One of the things that happens is that all this stuff builds up inside of us from experiences in life, and it just stops us, right? People have no idea that they're dragging around so much garbage inside of them. They're dragging around all this crap from past experiences, and science has shown that now, that like trauma is passed down through the DNA. So maybe it's not even your stuff, right? But there's science out there that's showing that our parents' stuff and their parents' stuff and their parents' stuff is passed down to the DNA with books like It Didn't Start With You and The Body Keeps the Score. So the reason I say that is because so many people are dragging around all this stuff. They're dragging around the past, and it's interfering with their relationships. It's interfering with their dreams and their goals and their aspirations and their whatever it is they want to accomplish in their life. And so when you can clear all that stuff out of you, you can start to go after that stuff a lot more and change your life. So, when I found this work, I was a personal trainer, and I was really frustrated with some of business stuff that wasn't working for me. And I started a couple businesses since then. I have 3 other businesses, and I started teaching this breathwork, sharing this breathwork with people. And now that's become a whole thing for me. And it was never my intention. It was, I wanted to show people and help people. And now it's taken off and it has this whole life of its own, which is incredible because it's the most rewarding thing I've ever done. It's the most fulfilling thing I've ever done, is to guide people through breath work. And now I'm teaching people how to teach it, and they're out there helping people. So it's like this incredible, pyramid scheme for good. And that feels really good. And, I started this online course thing where people can do the breathwork teacher training online, or they can do my 5-day emotional detox online. And I get these emails from people saying how it's changed their life. And it's just incredible to me. And I just wanted to, hopefully this video helps clear it up. Like, what is breathwork? Breathwork is a technique in which you lay on the floor, flat on the floor, and you breathe through your mouth, connected, without resting in between. I crank the music. You're not seated in this lotus position with a quiet head trying to quiet your head, right? We're laying on the floor, breathing super intense through the mouth. I'm cranking the music. I'm, saying all this stuff, this motivational stuff over the music to get you to push through and to breathe, and saying all this emotional stuff to get you to open up and release. And we let out a big yell at the end. And then we go into, I do some moments where I guide you to gratitude and love. Because in the end, that's really all that matters, is gratitude and love. Everything else is a big distraction, as I always say. And so it really just, it's like the love that you give and the love that you get is all that you're going to take with you. And so I hope that you've enjoyed this video and it's taught you a little bit about what breathwork is. Thanks.